Well, we went out and got two new pushrod tubes. Apparently the ones that came with the bike were for a 500cc and were not tall enough. These are 650 pushrod tubes and they appear to be tall enough. So we're just getting ready to drop the head on the bike and put it all together when we decided, gee willikers, we just bought all brand new head bolts. Let's make sure that those head bolts actually fit the holes in this 750 kit, because this is a 750 drop-on kit. And we better check to make sure that the brand new head bolts actually fit into the cylinders. So, moving around here slowly so that we don't make people dizzy. We will go back over here to the workbench and I will show you the beautiful set, brand new set of all new head bolts that I bought for this bike, because the head bolts that came out of it were just all torn up. Just really, I'll show you. Anyway, so here's a brand new set of head bolts made for this year Triumph 650. Okay, they don't fit. They have fine threads, as this year used, and the threads in that 750 kit are coarse threads. So, going back to the bolts that I took out of the motor, here are the head bolts that I took out of the motor, and I'll show you that they have coarse threads. First and foremost, there was no center bolt. That ain't it. That's another bolt. So there was no center bolt for the head. I'm going to have to find one that fits with coarse threads. These bolts are grade 5 hardware store. I don't even think they take the torque. But anyway, grade 5 hardware store bolts just aren't strong enough. And these bolts have been ground down around the head in order to clear the frame. Now the secret to putting these head bolts on, see how it's been ground away? The secret to putting these head bolts on so they don't interfere with the frame is to put them through the rocker boxes gently and then lift the rocker boxes up and tilt them left and right, and these will fall right through without interfering with the frame. So we're going to go try to find a set of head bolts with coarse threads, and if I have to, I'll try to find some grade 8 bolts for the outer head bolt positions, and I'll use the heavy washers that came from this kit. And I'd love to use this center bolt, but it's a fine thread versus coarse. I'll take it along with me when I look for the coarse thread center bolts. And I'm going to try to come up with a set of head bolts that will fit this bike. One of the interesting things is these bolts, if you look, they go through that hole and rattle around like a BB in a rain barrel. This head expects heavier bolts. It's drilled for bolts of this diameter, you know, not those little bitty skinny ones. So, all in all, the adventure continues. I've got to go find enough bolts to make a good set of head bolts that I can put on and torque down properly. That'll do the job. And that's where we are today. The fun continues. Okay, the project continues. Started to put the head on, decided I better check the head bolts, found out that the head bolts that I bought, that whole brand new set, are all stock fine thread bolts suitable for this engine if it were stock. But since it is not stock, it has a 750 drop-on kit, I can't use those bolts. So I'm defaulting to number 8 bolts, and we'll go over and look at those in just a second. Right now, when I first started trying the bolts, I found out that this hole right here is completely stripped. There's no threads in it at all. And these holes have all been messed up by putting American bolts into British threads. So I'm going to ask my mechanic, my machinist, to drill and helicoil all 4 holes with coarse American bolts. So they'll all be alike and they'll all work. And I'll let him decide whether he's going to use the 1/4-inch bolts that are here, or if he's going to drill out all the holes in the rocker boxes to match this hole, which is already drilled out, while the other 3 holes are not. So we've got 1 over-drilled hole here. We've got 3 standard holes on the other rocker boxes, 1 and 2, and 3 holes with screwed up threads of various screwed upness. And I'll let my machinist come up with a solution for all those bolts. Now, in the meantime, moving over here slowly, I'm going to use the original stock, the original bolts that were supplied with the 750 kit, because they have coarse threads, as the jugs have. I'm going to use heavy-duty washers underneath of them. I'm going to use number 8 bolts on the outside 4 because they have coarse threads and will go into the 750 drop-on kit. And they're stronger than the hardware store bolts that were in there that had been supplied by the manufacturer, I guess. And I'm going to use the number 8 bolt in the center with a nice heavy washer. So it's a competition bike, so having the gold number 8 bolts on the outside will actually look kind of spiffy. You know, oh, the bike is so bad it needs number 8 bolts. Anyway, all that should let me put the top end on the motor after I get it back, the head back from my machinist. In the meantime, I will put the chain on the bike and start dressing it out a little bit and stay busy while the machinist works on the head and tries to fix up these 4 bolt holes. And that's where we are. Okay, I've reached a logical stopping point on this bike. I think I've solved the problem of what I'm going to do for all the head bolts. I've got sufficient head bolts to put this thing together. Good head bolts, grade 8 head bolts, ones that won't strip. I put the chain guard and chain on, got good movement. Brake switch is in place. So the back end of the bike is complete. Here sits the head with notes for my machinist. He comes by and picks up this stuff, and I will have him fix these bolts and bolt holes. I have in the past drilled out bolt holes. I have in the past tapped bolt holes. I have in the past put in helicoils, but I don't do that anymore. I've adopted the new philosophy of I don't try to do part-time what somebody else does full-time. So I'll let the professional do those holes, drill them out, tap them, helicoil them, whatever he has to do to give me 4 good bolts in those back bolt holes in the rocker boxes. So that's where we are at this point in time. And I'm going to put this bike aside right now, and I'm going to walk over here and look at these 3 bikes, all of which are waiting for me. This bike is waiting on the head, and I have the head back. I could put the head on this bike and see if it'll run, because it did run. It just was not running exactly correctly. So I had some head work done. I've got the head back. I could work on that bike. This bike came in a few days ago, actually longer than that. It needs an audit, and this bike came in at the exact same time, and it needs an audit. Now, an audit is when I spend the better part of a whole day starting at the front wheel and working my way through a bike all the way to the rear wheel, listing everything that I think should be done to the bike to make it reliable and safe. I don't do just get it running jobs. When a bike leaves my shop, I have to say it's safe to ride. Otherwise, their survivor's attorney will say, you sent a bike out that was not safe. And I don't ever want to hear a survivor's attorney say, you sent a bike out that was not safe. So I don't do just get it running jobs. I just want to get it running so I can sell it. I don't do that. It has to be made safe and reliable, as safe and reliable as it was when it was made. So I think I'll spend the next 2 days doing the audit on this Norton and the audit on this little BSA over here that's wearing a Triumph gas tank. I'll have to look up and see what the clients want done on that. And then I think that'll take care of the next couple of days. And then I will probably work on this bike to get the engine running with the head work that was done. And by that time, I might have the head back on this bike and I'll go back to working on it. So that's my plan. They say you want to know if the good Lord has a sense of humor, tell him your plans. Those are my plans. We'll see what actually happens over the next couple of days. So that's about it. I'll let you go. Here we are, having fun.